sorry about that, nephew ran in.
No problem, guys. Well, welcome once again to Deep Web3 Secrets. And we're here with the Hive and Aloha Ed warming up the room today. We've got some guests lined up for later on. What's going on in the altcoin market, the Hive?
Oh, me, I was just. I know yourself is into the alt. You probably got more alt. You probably own half the alt tokens on the engine and tribal decks. But other than that, I was thinking about the investment. Some money was asking me about stuff. He asked me about stuff I don't know anything about really. I just have my own logic going on a bit like ego does. And what he asked me, I came back with the solution. Okay, give me 50 HBD and I will demonstrate how to do exactly what you want. And
let's do it.
He can.
I bet you we raise 850 HBD today.
Well, it's basically that RS card group, right? You see, the stuff I haven't mentioned about that group. Hello, Joseph. One of your, not number one fan, somewhere around the 50-ish mark. I like
50-ish, yeah. Well, he's a good guy, and we got him. But hold on a second. I want to get in to the card club. And I think I want to get my tip jar in too, because I think I understand. Well, it's like a sponsorship, right? I put in $5 a month. I want in, and I want you to manage my rising star exposure. How can I get in?
Actually, there's an enrollment fee, 50 HBD.
Yeah, well, is that one time?
Get your foot in the door.
That's
a one-time fee. And then next year, there's only a 5 HBD cost to get in. So there is then a yearly subscription after that. Yeah, but you do get the benefit. Yeah, so the account is going to make more posts than it has made in the last couple of days.
What's the account? Put it in the chat. I'm building the tip jar link right now because I want to enroll and I want other people to be able to enroll. So what's the account I should send the $50 to?
Well, you can send it straight to savings because that's where it's going to go. So if you've clicked on to send it to savings and then just change the name, it can go directly to the RS Card Club.
Now, Eco, for people who are not familiar with the tip jar, can you briefly explain that or link that so that people have a reference?
Well, first thing is, yes, I'll get the link. Why don't we have, Joseph, can you test your mic? Do you mind explaining the tip jar as you know it while I do some back-end work here?
It's a different interface that you can use to send transactions. It creates a keychain transaction. But the advantage that it has is that you can set up transactions in advance and have it embedded in a URL. So I could do a URL that's like, this is a transaction that sponsors me for Hive SBI. And I can put that on my profile, or I could put that as a clickable link in all of my posts. And if somebody wants to support with Hive SBI, they just click that link. It goes to tip jar. The transaction is all filled out, and they either change the amount from one Hive if I set it at one Hive, or just send it as is and sign the transaction.
Taking questions.
It's brilliant. So it sounds like it's a way to structure and even automate some transactions if you want to, and ahead of time. I mean, obviously, in some of the interfaces on Hive, you can make something reoccurring, but it sounds like TipJar gives you a larger breadth of options on how to structure and schedule payments. And Joseph, so very good to meet you. I am a huge fan. This is Aloha Ed. I am a huge fan of Hive state-based income, SBI. I think it's a great reinforcement mechanism for sharing and thinking about the connection of the community. And I love that the mechanism for it is the only way you can get SBI is to give it to someone else. Well, I should modify that. I think we learned recently, and perhaps you'll talk about that later, SBI can be transferred. Your own SBI can be transferred to another account.
Yeah, okay, let me get in here because this is where the interview is headed, absolutely. And I have just put in the chat the composable URL for TipJar. It's my I mean, I would really love to show people that this is something they can use for free. You can compose your URLs. And I've provided the example of a clickable link in Discord. This is a markdown, so you can do this on your Hive posts. In this case, to the Rising Star Card Club. And this is something I'm going to be figuring out how to get 50 HBD to enroll in, because I really like the Rising Star game, but I have this problem that it's too complicated for me to understand. But I believe in it. I believe in micro NFT game systems. And so people who are into that, a competent manager, as it were, I love to invest in that. And at a small scale like this, 50 HBD is the perfect I think I spent that much on Super Bowl squares, and I didn't get anything out of it. So I would much rather give it to the Rising Star Card Club to support my friend the Hive. So why don't you, the Hive, do just 2 minutes, 3 minutes? What am I investing in? When I send this 50 HBD to you, what does that get me? And what are my benefits as a new investor card club member?
The club's designed to help people who actually play the game, and it was only through going through this process over the last 2 months and seeing what I could do and what I did not say I was going to do, because I didn't want to bring people in too early that were the wrong kind of people. So I kept certain things quiet. But now I have a member. I have to start these things going to see how it's actually going to work, and I did that. So each month now, I've got one member who paid 50 HBD. That's in saving. During the same time, since I started the account, I've made a few posts and we've grown the account by an extra 8 HBD, 8.5 HBD. So by the end of the next month, we'll have grown that again by another 10, 15, or 20 HBD. So whoever has given in that 50 HBD is also getting the benefit of the interest coming in from the stake going in from post. So that just gives additional benefits.
Is
Now,
it the
we're going to
case?
take
Is it the case that you're flipping cards though? Is there some NFT flipping going on?
now with the HBD that comes in, we're going to take that, turn it to the Hive, send it to the chain, and turn it into star bits. Some of it. We're going to turn it into star bits. No, sorry, I'm going backwards here. Half of the stake that comes in the liquid is going to the Hive chain. That's going to buy packs of cards using Starbit. Yeah, so we're going to build a deck, and through doing that, we get some of them legendaries. We get other cards we pass on to the graveyard. They're like the common cards that nobody really wants, and there's an abundance of anyway. From the interest that comes down, we're taking half of that, we're leaving half of it still in the account, keep the account growing that a little bit faster. The other half we're taking out, and we're going to buy the game token, the Star Pro. Star Pro, one Star Pro is worth about 44 Hive right now, like that, and I think on the high it's like 51. But there's a bit of bartering going on there between as well. So we're going to buy some of that token at the high price, using half of the interest that comes in from the HBD. Then we're going to divide that, and we're going to give some back to the game. We're going to give some to the players, and we're going to use some to use for ourselves in the game. That there is times when you need to use Star Pro in the game to do a mission. So to cover them costs and make sure we can get them cards as well, we're going to use that other bit of the Star Pro. So the whole thing is geared around helping other players. But anybody who invests with that 50 HBD, I realize, well, if we're buying Star Pro, yeah, and we're going to give some of that to players who invest 50 HBD. If another player or somebody outside thinks it might be a good idea to invest there, that just to get this Star Pro, that I'm going to get a more amount of each month as time goes on. If they can figure out a decent time to themselves, where it's only going to be something like 18 months, and then I won't have to think about that 50 HPD anymore, because it's beneficial for me to lose that HPD and keep this bigger reward coming in each month instead. But if I take that 50 HPD back, I'm going to lose all these rewards each month. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yes, absolutely. And so I would be expecting, hoping for Star Pro dividends, and that's would be my investment. And but the HBD, it sounds like, would still always be there. My 50 HBD has never moved. You're only managing the interest on my money. I really am a club member in that sense, right?
Yeah. The, the benefit there is like you might play Rising Star, and like you say, you're busy with other stuff. Well, the account I have, the Hive, I played that in Rising Star, so I can't play with another account. But I can do those crafting cards. And then I can get all those crafting cards and get a complete set made up of the guitars, the drums, production, and whatever else comes along. And say, well, here, these are available for club members and it only costs you this. To do it, it costs you 1,000 star bits each time, plus all them 5 minutes until you get all of the parts. And you don't get all of the parts in the right order. You end up with many of one and not enough of the other. So there's always a lot more missions you need to do. You end up, the club basically will do all them missions for you and provide you this. Or you can go in individually and choose the cards you want as we make them. So there's a lot more things the club will provide in what it will do. That's just one side of the reward.
Well, one thing that I'm really interested in, because it sounds like something that I've been thinking of for D City. We put together a mobile first market, and together with a user called Ryosai, he has $2, $3 strategies where you can get a very high ROI on a very low investment. And so, I always imagine, like, give me $20, $19.99, and I'll put you in my NFT boot camp. I'll give you, $7 of D City tokens, and I'll teach you to buy low and sell high, or something like that. I'll teach you about the trade-offs between buy it now and buy low, sell high, and how to balance those in a portfolio for NFT markets. So I'm in. I'm in for 50. Give me all the dividends. I will also consider maybe sending up, I think they call that a scholar in this world. So I'll send a scholar under my 50, maybe my brother-in-law. He likes this sort of thing. So, but also as possibly a valid entryway for people to get in the card club and play Rising Star. I never could recommend Rising Star because I never played it. But if there's a club, I would love to recommend some local people that like this sort of thing and would put in $50 just to have a have something to learn, a reason to learn.
Well, see, when you get into a game now, that game has been going for a few years. It's old. There's going to be things there you don't have. You gonna find it very hard to get, and then they're goddamn expensive. So that puts a lot of people off starting the game. But if there's a club there, and this club is willing to sacrifice its profits, so to speak, to help you because you're a member, and make that journey a little bit cheaper than it is right now. Yeah, now it's not going to make it free. You have to help out, and even with a membership, you don't get like free cards. You still have to pay for them. Well, you're getting them like 20 or 30% cheaper than they are on the market. So there is big savings there for new people coming to the game, basically. And I think the 50 HPD is relatively cheap at 1 HPD a week for the first year, and then 5 HPD for the next year, and so on.
Well, I think it's at least the pitch is at the right scale, because we have a problem with scale, and I kind of want to try to transition this to Joseph Savage with his Hive stake-based income, and we had I think it was it Infinite Crosslinks, where we proposed a monthly $10 a month of SBI. But the idea that you would, what does a WordPress site cost to host? They say free, but there's so many different micro levels of payments for different things that free is pretty expensive in time and energy. I bet anybody with a website is paying $20 a month, which is $250 a year. So within $250 a year, there seems to be a whole bunch of microservices that people would be willing to pay. And anti-socialists, welcome to the room. Please, can you ping here? According to Hive Trending, your role gives you special power, and my heres are weak and ineffectual, but your heres would be amazing and far-reaching. So Joseph Savage, come on in. He's typing. I could keep talking for a little bit too. Yeah, weak and ineffectual. Joseph, come on in and talk us about free tiers in a world of crypto. Yeah, who's talking? The Hive?
Sorry. Yeah, maybe let Joseph hang on and see if we get a few more people in here, because otherwise we might end up just having him saying, okay, you said this earlier on. Say that again.
Say that again. Yeah. Because he's got a math-based program, right? You got to think about
Well, I'm thinking he's going to say more important stuff than I'm going to say.
I definitely think, here's the problem. You've got a $50 pitch. Joseph's got no pitch right now. He's working on it. And every time we've made a pitch, the conditions have changed. So we're still thinking about what the conditions are right now to make that pitch.
Well, there you go. That's a good thing. A bit of brainstorming going on in the chat then by people throwing complications in. That's always a good thing. With the RS thing there, like you're saying, you were saying that you need to kind of organize a fund or something to pay for this or that or that. Well, there you go. If you put that 50 HPD in there and say, okay, this is dedicated to the cost fund account. So what comes into this account over here, everything that this profits, this is all used to cover our costs. And then what comes in the Star Pro gets sent out to that account, and then you look at it in a couple of weeks, couple of months, and you go, okay, we've got that there, we take that out, use that for that. But if you've done that with a few different little things that brought in a little bit, you'd be surprised how quick that single account can build up from a lot of little pennies getting dropped in.
Personally, I have seen the power of a little bit over time, which is I'm recording, so it doesn't really matter who comes in, because I'm recording these deep Web3 sessions, and I think at different time zones I'm going to catch different people. So a little strategy there, but I want to bring Joseph in because exactly what you just said, that these little bits of value creation, these little bits of savings, or these little good decisions can go a long way, and I think they can go a long way in terms of user retention. And so if that's not a hook, Joseph Savage, come in and give us a welcome here. Say who you are. Who are you?
Hey guys, I'm Joseph Savage. Most people know me for the program that I started a few years ago, High Stake-Based Income. We originally started it on that previous chain that shall not be named. And the idea is to create a little bit of an incentive for people to support other people. That's basically the whole idea. The rest is all just the math and mechanics behind the scenes.
I love that. So let's linger there for a little bit on what support means. What does support mean on a protocol level? Right? What does that mean? I mean, how can we translate support into technology? And I mean, you kind of tried to do that. Talk to me about UBI or whatever. I don't think even UBI, obviously you're a staked-based income now, not a universal income. So talk to me about that philosophical transition, learning what we've learned along the way.
Yeah, so universal basic income was always aspirational. The core idea of universal basic income is that people should receive maintenance level of support, which basically would be if you get this much level of support every month, it will keep you alive. You won't starve to death, and you won't freeze to death. Theoretically, advanced societies should have no problem doing that, but actually distribution of universal basic income runs into a lot of technical problems. And anytime that you distort or disturb incentives in the way that resources are distributed within an economy, it has profound downstream effects. And so the only countries that have successfully done anything remotely resembling a universal basic income have funded it using petroleum dollars.
Wow. Okay, so that's an interesting point. And we're talking about Norway, or I mean, what Middle East, UAE type stuff. And is that true? The only way? Nobody ever did that with whale oil? This has never existed before?
Whale oil. No. So the unique characteristic of oil is that it comes out of the ground. And so it was very clear, like, where it came from, who it should belong to. And in most countries, it was decided that it belonged to the people and it was administered by the state. And so the revenues that were received from it, the states would partner with a petrol company, and that company would do all of the drilling, they would do the distribution and sale, and the state would receive some specific price per barrel, and those eventually changed to like 50% of the total revenue. And then most of those countries would put that into kind of what we would think of as a hedge fund.
Sovereign wealth funds.
Exactly. And the sovereign wealth fund would then invest those petrodollars and use it to create like a more stable source of funding for the government, or in some cases they chose to do a basic income. And it would be through government programs, but they make sure that like every kid has breakfast before school and every person has a roof over their head and nobody goes hungry. So even if it's structured as like support programs instead of what we would think of as a pure universal basic income, it provides the same functional role, and it's funded by petrodollars.
So can I, sorry to interrupt here, but can I tie that into your long tail methodology, where you look for smaller users in the long tail to reward extra shares to? Is that kind of the functional equivalent?
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, sorry, I had a migraine earlier, and words were coming to me a little more slowly sometimes.
You're doing great, man. I as long as I keep you off the math, I think you're doing fantastic.
Okay, so at a philosophical level, we design high stake-based income so that it would be completely voluntary, provide some incentive for people to have resources to reward others. And then there would be built within it some shadow mechanisms or even sometimes blatant mechanisms that would increase the tendency toward rewarding and lifting up that long tail. And so some of those I do myself when I have a little bit of extra hive kicking around. I'll pick out a few accounts that are still active that only have 1 or 2 units and sponsor them for more. Some of those use the program's own resources. So 1 to 2% of the total stake are on accounts that trail at like a 70% vote target and will just randomly vote. And because of the way that votes distribute, if you get a full vote from that trail account, it's called SBI Booster. If you get a full vote from that trail account and you
Okay, we lost Joseph, but I've shared in the chat that our own NGO here in Colombia, Quinta Esencia Taller, has received donation units and has accumulated balance, which we can talk about later. But at the bottom, you see rewarded estimates. So basically, through donation units, the program has delivered $304 to our local NGO, which plants trees and works to communicate to people how they can integrate ecological restoration into their profitable agriculture. Oh, I see. Okay, well, let me lead you right back in here. Yeah, man, no problem. Push it again.
Yeah, I don't know where you lost me. So, yeah. So within the framework, there are a couple of things like FBI Booster. They are intended to provide a little bit of extra support to people in the long tail. And then the biggest impact comes from things like what you're pointing to next, the Quinta Esencia and other initiatives that have recognized Hive SBI as something that they can use to amplify or compound their stake a little bit faster than they would with just like standard curation rewards, and use that to build up initiatives and build up support for other users and develop their own strategies for choosing who in the long tail they want to provide additional support to. And those users,
yes,
those users
take a breath,
are the cornerstone. That's what makes everything really work. The mechanics, the math behind it, all of the fancy stuff, like that works. We got a really good developer that did the original code base for us. Unfortunately, he's no longer active on Hive in any capacity. But what really makes it work is those whales like you who saw the vision very early and have continued to support and provide support to lots and lots and lots of different users.
So basically what you're saying, if I'm understanding right, is, and I think I understand some of the math too, so I might say that we invested early, and along the way, sure, maybe we've captured some value, additional value, by not falling asleep. But this program is designed to leak value to the most vulnerable, active users, and that value is going to come in some way from an inactive or less active than it then maximally profitable whale account like Quintessencia. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Yeah, basically.
So that's really nice for us because we're an NGO. So if we're leaking value, we like to know that it's leaking not in a fellow whale's pocket, but it's leaking into the smaller users that are catching on to these waves, right?
Arguably, everyone is boosted by the inactivity of large stakeholders, but smaller accounts get more benefit from that, like as a percentage of what they would get just from their own holdings, than larger accounts do.
So just from my early days with the income token and my playing with rewarding, and I mean, obviously, you made one scalable program. I've kind of built different things and different tokens along the way, but one of the things I tried to always do was skew the tiers in the other direction, right? So that it would be a higher APR lower down. And so the latter game is kind of different that way. But how have you worked to incentivize bigger users to continue to invest when maybe there's no more extra value that they'd be getting?
So the biggest incentive for bigger users to continue to invest is actually the fact that our curation rewards that we earn within the program are outpacing the enrollment of new users. And what that basically means, to throw little numbers in there for the first time, if we're earning, say, 12% of, yeah, I don't know how to good the grumpy ones either. If we're earning, say, 12% in a year, that could be, I don't know, $10,000. And so there would need to be, in that same year, $10,000 of new enrollment in the program for the total amount of Hive per unit to remain static. But there actually are not $10,000 of new enrollments in the program. I don't know what the actual numbers are. I would have to look. And so the total Hive per unit is growing. And so we're at a point.
Yeah. Hold on a second. You cut off, but this is a super important point. So I just want to, because you're about to say now. So I get what over collateralized means, right? I know what that means, and that's a nice place for a business to find itself in. And so when you reveal the number here in a little bit, we could ask about how it got that way, because I feel like 10% or 20% over collateralized is fundamentally starting to become no-brainer type stuff, right? So what is your collateralization figures? Are you 2-to-1 yet, or not quite?
Not quite. 2-to-1 actually, honestly, is an optimistic stretch goal. And I don't think that we will actually ever get there, because people will start to understand what it means, and enrollments will catch up.
We're getting some political. Yes, audio gathering. Yes, okay. Thank you, Antisocialist. I appreciate it, and I know you did it for me, and you put all the blame on me. Okay, and this is a good case to make for why I should have the role, and I'll make that case as soon as I figure out who to make it to. So
maybe
Joseph,
people can opt in for a no grumpy role. And we can always at the no grumpy role, which is basically like an at here or at everyone. There is people that will not be upset about it.
No, I absolutely disagree. If they're going to come in here and be here, they're going to get the pins. And if they want to be grumpy about it, it's really easy not to be here, and that's to turn off your thing to make yourself inactive.
Well, if they're grumpy, they probably are turned off already.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, yeah, but we're working, exactly. So the grumpy ones aren't here. That's how we ping here. And so that's how it works. Okay, so Joseph, we are talking about building communities and supporting them through good math and over collateralization. And I do think the right conclusion is that people are going to start to notice because it's getting bonkers. So just talk a little bit about how bonkers it is right now and how people can get in on this bonkersness.
So we had a pretty solid first year where a lot of people came into the program, and first couple of years, honestly. And then there was some drama right before the Hive fork. And at that point, we made a painful decision to stop actively supporting, or not supporting, but stop actively promoting the program. And so at that point, we did not post about the program anymore. Core members continued to use it to support other Hive users. People would discover it kind of through word of mouth or seeing both and asking about it and stuff like that, but we were not actively posting and promoting. And during that time period, that resulted in our curation rewards growing on the account and significantly outpacing new enrollments in the program. And then you add up that kind of behavior over 4 years since the Hive fork. What has resulted is we are actually, when you enroll another user in the program, you effectively send one Hive, you sponsor them into the program. That Hive is powered up. There's a little bit of financial management that makes the program less vulnerable to price swings in Hive. But effectively, there is stake that is dedicated to the support of that user, and we've got the same 50-50 curation as happens everywhere else, except that you get your curation back also in the form of upvotes on your content. And so it's similar to some extent to using something like Hive Vote, except that it's a lot easier to manage your roles or your voting rules and have direct control over who you're supporting and how much you're supporting.
And I love that. I love that support. Now, you were going to keep rolling. Let me in. Fantastic. Okay, so we're curating on a continuous basis. People think that we're curating content, but if you look at what a voting trail is, we are curating users. We're curating users for different behaviors, and this is expected behavior already. And so one of the things I think that I picked up on quick was that this is not a content by content game. And back when it was a game curation, or more of a game, we were curating users. Which are the users most likely to create positive content? Now, I have my own metrics. I tend to believe, and my project support the idea that every human is trying to achieve something. And so if they can just post about that, their real journey trying to achieve the thing that they're humanly doing, then that has value, and we would of course support that because they're humans. And as long as they're not trying to hurt anybody else or whatever, like within the rules of the game, maybe that is the NAP, non-aggression principle or something. But okay, so we support humans, and humans are a type of user, valuable humans that show that they're adding value on a journey. This program was 7 years ago answered the question with a program to select a user for ongoing support. In the last 7 years, has there been any other blockchain out there project that you think is even applicable to this model? Or what was it about the graphene, the Hive Steam system that made this idea come to life for you in such a way 7 years ago?
So at that time, there were a handful of different blockchain-based basic income initiatives that I was aware of. And at core, any basic income initiative has a mechanical or economic problem, which is that there has to be something that gives token value. There has to be somewhere where the value comes from in order for it to actually help the people that it's given to. And so a lot of these other chains, like it would be a whole blockchain that was dedicated to basic income. And so you sign up for that blockchain, and then your account gets a certain number of tokens every month. And then what? You find someone to dump those tokens on. Like I can do a basic income token. I could create a new token on Hive Engine and send every account on Hive a certain amount of it every day, and then my name would be Lassie.
Well, hold on a second. Pause that. Let's talk about Lassie, because I don't think I said it, but I said, what's the difference? I don't think I said it in the last episode. What's the difference between Lassie and Neo Xion? Everybody wants to be Neo Xion's friend. Okay, so talk through that. That example, because I don't think necessarily it's a failed model, because popular people may be able to manage it, but it's not an investment model. So break that down for me.
So the fundamental problem with that model is that there has to be some reason that people want to hold the token instead of just dumping the token as soon as they get it. If there's no reason to hold the token, everyone dumps the token as soon as they get it and it races to zero. There's tokens on Hive Engine that trade at 1 Hive sat, which is effectively zero, and there's tokens that have asks at 1 Hive sat. And so if you want, you could, for 15 Hive, buy the entire floating supply of the token. It wouldn't do you any good. You're basically just like handing 15 Hive to someone who's dumping their bags, and then what are you going to do with it? But you could. The difference for something like Neoxian is he has a significant amount of accounts. He's voting based on that. And his activity, people wanting to be friends with Neoxian, wanting to be whales, or gathering some value from being on his radar, is actually what gives that token value.
Okay, so you're just saying it's the same old story. You have to provide value, and one guy does it. The other guy's got no value to add. Something like that?
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so what's happening with graphene blockchains, and particularly the curation model that Hive uses, is that there are other mechanics. There's value in controlling and continuing to power up Hive. And that value is what gives managing the curation, managing stake, participating in the DHF, building businesses on top of it, getting bandwidth for something like Splinterlands. All of those are things that create value for that token. And so we found that if we could leverage those existing mechanisms that give it value and inject ourselves into the curation protocol, we could do kind of a stake-based income. And it was always stake-based. We called it Steam Basic Income, and we were aiming for universal. That was always aspirational. It was always stake-based. The model works exactly now as it did when we got things fully automated at month 11. There has been no change in the core mechanics of the program in almost 7 years. And for 3 years before the high fork.
We can't have an interview without you mentioning that for 11 months you did this manually. Can you just remember that in a fascinating sociological way?
So I used a bunch of spreadsheets. We used Steamvoter for controls, which now is the version on this one is Highvote, I believe. We used Steamvoter to control, and then I did regular checks on every single account that was enrolled in the program to make sure that they were not abusing the vote. So, like, for example, if somebody posted once a day and then they got enrolled and jumped their posting to 5 times a day, trying to capture as many votes as they could, we would then throttle them, and they would be down to, like, no votes. Or like 1 vote a week, and I would have it tagged to like turn it on for 1 day a week later. And so, yeah, I was managing it all in Steamboat with manual things, but I had the framework of how I wanted it to run drafted out, and I was just looking for programmers that had the chops to put together what I actually envisioned.
Did you pay Olger 80 any money, or did you pay him shares in the stake-based income?
So I designed it so that for every 100 units that are created, which is basically somebody sends 50 hives, it creates 50 units for whoever they're sponsoring, 50 units for themselves, that's 100 units. It would create at the same time 5 units, which would be like bonus units. And those 5 units initially would go to me, but actually it was designed so that at the time of initial release, 2 of those 5 went to Holger, 3 of the 5 went to me. And then over time, like depending on his level of commitment, we gradually changed that level. And eventually he was no longer active on Hive. I assigned him to someone else, or assigned to someone else right now. That person is also no longer active on Hive, but I haven't set it so that all 5 of them go to me. I'm still in the hopes that there will be a really good Python programmer that will come on and want to work for bonus units and work through a bunch of my wish list.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this if you don't mind, because, you know, let's make units great again. Okay, they're double collateralized. I mean, is it the fact that there's not enough bonus units being produced by new enrollments to motivate any programmer? Is that kind of the bottleneck?
Honestly, I think that the bottleneck is that you have to already be like committed to understanding the value of ongoing belts on Hive and interested in posting on a regular basis. If you're not going to be posting regularly, like me, like I have a ton of bonus units, but they don't do me any good, so I'm always giving them away or like using them for other things to support the program. And same thing, the other developer that is technically the lead developer right now, he's no longer active and can't actually work for me because of a contract that he has with his current employer. And so he can't use his bonus units either. And they just accumulate value in his account that he cannot capture. And if you're not going to be connected into the ongoing value, bonus units don't actually have value.
Okay, let me ask you this, because we've thought this through some ways, and I just had an idea, brilliant idea. Limited run. Can we tokenize balance, pending balance?
Presently, pending balance can be converted into more units, and that just compounds the problem. If you're never going to be able to post, you're better off finding somebody that you can offload your units to in an over-the-market transaction.
I just feel like if I could, I mean, I guess I can with manual transactions. I can pending balance transfer bomb my developer so he stays motivated, even though he hates making the shit posts that gives him the money.
Right, and that's the core problem right there, is that the personality of a developer and the personality of a content creator are usually different. And a developer that wants to get in and solve the problems feel or sees it as a distraction or like not a good use of his time to then get out there and like post about what he did to solve the problem and actually capture the value from the vote, which makes it so that vote value is not a good payment option for a developer.
Well, last week we began discussion. I mean, we started opening the discussion on Utopia, and I'm just going to share my guy's shit post of the day here because he actually managed to make one today. So I'm going to put that in the chat. But remembering Utopian, talk me through like what are some ways around this? I mean, so far I've been using beneficiaries to him on my posts as a way to at least try to appear like this thing's working, you know?
That's one way. One of the things on my wish list, and this will get into the core problem or the biggest weakness of the Hive stake-based income model, is that the Hive stake-based income model is run by me. That's its biggest weakness. I know that I'm an honest guy. You know that I'm an honest guy. A lot of people know I've been around for 8 years. I'm not going anywhere. But also, something could happen to me. And so at the very top of my long-term wish list roadmap is a set of mechanisms that would be required to transition Hive stake-based income into a DAO management model. And as part of that, it would actually split off so that there would be governance tokens that are separate from regular tokens. And you could convert bonus tokens and regular tokens into governance tokens, where you could convert pending balance into governance tokens, but you cannot round trip it back. You cannot go out and buy governance tokens and convert those into like regular Hive SBI units. And there's a game theory, econometrics reason for that, but I don't want to get too deep into that since this is all aspirational.
Well, yeah, maybe exactly aspirational. So maybe you just keep it aspirational and talk it through to the end. Yeah, on a surface level.
Right, and so that would fundamentally resolve that problem, because we could pay the developer with bonus units, and they could convert the pending balance into governance tokens and sell the governance tokens. But then the money still has to come somewhere to support that minimal value on the governance tokens. And end of the day, that would have to come out of my pocket supporting value. And
well, wait a second. Why you don't like markets? Why can't I buy? Now, I always wondered about this, because when people are trying to get out of a closed system, I'm just going to say it the way I like to say it, because I prefer to be sassy, snarky, and honest. But when you put a barrier, and the only option is out that I put up my cash, and instead of fresh units I want a discount. I want to rip your eyes out. So if you put up a governance token, why are you all of a sudden trying to backstop it? I mean, what is your backstop? Why can't we buy it at 90% of the value?
Oh, yeah. So my backstop absolutely would be 90%. So there would be room in there. It could trade anywhere above 90% of value. And ideally, other whales like yourself would come in and backstop it well above whatever hits my pocketbook.
Well,
I'm not going to backstop it at 0.5. I would backstop it at 0.4, 0.45.
Well, okay, great. Okay, so let me back off then, and let me say the same question. Why can't we buy it at 70% of the value? Or let me ask it another way. What is your responsibility personally? Because I know how these things work. I wrote the bylaws to my own company, just like you did. So how do you feel about this value of, that you would backstop it high as opposed to letting the market run amok in times of trouble?
There is a potential runaway value leak that if I let the market run and people can convert and sell it, or like buy it too low and gain too much control over the governance. And a lot of that will depend on what kinds of controls we actually allow the governance token to have. And so we would start with like really low danger things. Like if you have the governance token, you can nominate an account for skip list. And anyone that has the governance token can nominate the account, and then anyone can vote for or against that account that's on the skip list. And whatever the stake weighted vote is, would be the outcome of that vote. So that's like a really low danger governance mechanism, and we will evaluate how that runs and then gradually transition. There's a governance spectrum from like very low danger to very high danger. And at the very high danger end would be like complete overhaul or changes to the way that all of the voting works. And if we allow the pricing of the governance token to free float and it is too low relative to the value of the pool of total Hive SBI stake, then there is a theoretical governance attack where motivated players who understand the economics can actually take control when nobody else is watching.
Okay, fantastic. Let's not go any deeper there, but let's try to unpack it a little bit, because this is fascinating. And the first thing that caught my eye is that, of course, these are the types of governance, token governance experiments we need a lot of. And we're getting more and more with every passing year. And these are the things we learn lessons with. And secondly, it would seem to be that over-collateralization would mean that really the price of a governance token should be something like 0.9 as opposed to 0.5. And so a certain program backstop might even be seen as, underpriced buybacks. It's strengthening the program even further if you set a wall. So now I've answered, maybe with your help, my own question on why you'd set the bar so high, because it's a worthy bar and it's good for the program in a certain sense. I mean, shrinking probably isn't good for the program, but tightening, right, under these conditions is?
Yeah, and we could theoretically do the backstop using, say, the SBI tokens account, which has a couple $1,000s of assets on it that have entirely come from various airdrops that it's received over the years and are now used to do some active trading and market making and participation in various communities in Hive Engine. And we could do some of the backstopping with that, where any governance tokens that come into that account are basically taken out of the vote. Those votes are not counted as part of the stakeholder vote.
Well, you bridged me right over, because I want to talk next about SBI tokens, which is an incredibly unique part of the program. I think nobody knows about it. And recently, as part of my necromancy efforts, I've been accumulating a massive stake of 1UP tokens. And I noticed who up there on the rich list with me? SBI tokens. And so I wonder if you talk a little bit about how you have, in what I see as a way to maintain interest in an automated program, through the good and the bad, the busy and the slow, and how that's kind of integrated you into other Hive communities in a unique way.
Yeah. So over the years, especially at the beginning, there were a lot of Hive Engine airdrops, and we made the decision early on that we were going to keep whatever SBI airdrops we received within SBI accounts. And then I realized it was problematic to manage the Hive Engine tokens across a whole bunch of different accounts. And I made a single account called SBI tokens, and I sent all of the tokens held by all of the other SBI accounts to that account. And all of the tokens held by the SBI program are managed within that account. In some cases, some airdrops were received as powered up stake and things like that. And looking at the unstaking timetables, tokens are held on the other account and they delegate it to the SBI tokens instead. But then any votes using those stake would come off of SBI tokens. So SBI tokens then uses Hive Vote, and we could internalize this, but so SBI tokens uses Hive Vote, and it follows using a stake-weighted approach. So roughly speaking, about 40% of the total stake held by the Hive SBI program is on the main account. And so SBI tokens follows that account's votes with a 40% vote weight. And then so on down from there. It would be maybe another 30% of the stake is held on SBI2, and so it would follow that with 30% vote weight and so on. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. I would have to look at my spreadsheet.
No, don't do it. There's no reason. Keep go back to the surface of the lake.
Right. Yeah. So it follows those. It holds all of the different tokens, and so it doesn't matter which upvote you get or which Hive SBI account you get your upvote from. If you are participating in a community that SBI tokens has a significant stake in, then your Hive SBI votes will also grant token value within that community. It used to be called Scott tokens. I don't know if anyone else still uses that terminology, but if you're familiar with that terminology, if it's a Scott token, then you're getting reward from our holdings in those tokens, and then we're getting duration reward on that.
You had to bring up the Scott tokens because I still have the Scott tester role in the Hive Engine Discord, and it is a funny thing for sure. Let me just look. I'm showing it on screen. Scott tester. Okay. So the truth of the matter is it's a little bit complicated and a little bit contentious. There was Scott, and then there was the Commons contract on Hive Engine. But yes, this is the stake-weighted tribal voting that you can activate with your token. And a lot of tokens did, and a lot of tokens died. But they're not all dead. And how did you manage that transition of the dying tribes and the living tribes and the necromantic tribes?
So for a long time, you could set your, I guess, tribes. That's what people are calling it now. You could set your tribe's weight so that it would overweight your votes, and then you wouldn't be like leaving your voting power idle all the time. And so I would just like max out the tribe's vote and then let that voting power on those tokens live where it lived. And then I would kind of keep an eye on voting power across all the different tribes that we had tokens in. And if the voting power was always at 100%, that meant that no SBI users were using that token, and we would power that down and dump that token.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so because you have a widespread community voting program, you used your users' use of the tag as a proxy for death of a tribe, yes?
Yeah, essentially speaking. If we have it powered up and people that are Hive SBI users are actively posting within that tag, we're going to be voting on content within that tag regularly enough that our voting power will never be sitting at 100% in that tag. If our voting power, if we have our vote weight at say 50, which is the highest I could ever get it to actually stick to, so I think that might be a protocol level maximum. But if we have our vote weight at 50, then that implies that only 2% of the stake-weighted membership of Hive SBI has to be active within that tribe in order for our voting power to stay below 100% in that tribe. And so if we're constantly at 100%, it means that less than 2% of our vote of our stake-weighted membership is active in that tribe.
So just 2 points there. Fantastic. One, getting proxy information about user-based use is smart. And two, I think the evolution of tag use is something I want to go into in a later episode. I have some tools coming out, but the evolution of tag use is important, and it is definitely tied to this tribal idea. And I appreciate you taking my word for it, because it is a complex jargon landscape when it comes to these proof of brain weighted voting tokens, even on a protocol level. Okay, so SBI is a proxy. You know when they're dead. How can you? So what did you end up with? Did you end up with 5 of 10 or 2 of 20, or how was it? How did you experience the last 7 years in terms of, at least from the airdrop period forward, in terms of success of these tribes?
So from the airdrop period forward, for several years, that's how we were managing it. But over time, the quality of tools to manage that diminished, and eventually the final tool that we could reliably get our vote weights and check our voting power across all the different tribes in broke. And I don't want to associate anyone. That is a project that still exists. That tool just doesn't work. And so we could not actively manage it that way anymore. And then I kind of, I powered everything down. I went through, kind of got a feel for what we were actually voting on, tried to look at what tags people were using. And then as those power downs came available, what I chose to do is make active markets. And so theoretically speaking, if people are actively used, then there's going to be regular buying and selling demand. And so you're going to have reasonable spreads on the order books for those tokens. And so I would go in, I would look at how wide the spread is, I would put some buy and sell orders inside the spread, basically acting like a market maker, and kind of get a feel for how active that is by looking at the transaction volume that would happen in that token from day to day with my market making behavior. And then I started linking.
One question, because there's a lot of contention about low volume markets on Hive Engine, but what was an active market? Is $50 a week an active market? I mean, what was your conclusions participating in several of these dying and living tribe markets?
I mean, I set the bar really low, right? So if I put
Right.
on like if I put on a one Hive order, a buy and a sell, that are say less than 10% apart, and both sides of it fill in a day, that's an active market.
So we're talking about $1 a day. I mean,
one Hive, we're talking about 25 cents a day, buy and sell, so 50 cents a day total volume.
okay, so I mean, we need to have expectations, right? Because some percentage of them are staking, some percentage of them log in once a month, some percent. So if there's one Hive a day or 50 cents a day or however we want to frame it, we just are setting the bar way too high maybe for an active market. We don't know how much 50 cents means in terms of internal economy. Okay, so those are some conclusions. Keep going. And were many of the markets active at that level?
So at that level, there's maybe 24 markets that, or well, maybe a dozen that actually have like tribe communities attached to them, and then another dozen or so that are like the swap token, swap BTC, swap Doge, etc. That are active markets. So maybe 24 out of, I don't even know, thousands of assets on Hive Engine have what I would consider active markets.
Okay, 24. So, and is SPI tokens trading on the swap BTC or no?
Okay, so I started actively managing markets, and then recently set up a separate like market making strategy where we are actively making markets in swap BTC, but the prices that we have are usually like outside of where you could just get a swap anyway. And then we have separately a strategy that chooses strategic pivots to shift funds back and forth between Hive and BTC on Swap Engine, so between Swap Hive and Swap BTC. And the order book is thin enough that we do those through the pool, not on the order book.
Okay. Yes, I agree. The pools were a really great addition, and I think an important part of my understanding of how markets work and how markets get made. And we can just skip right over the fact that Hive SBI has Bitcoin exposure. But okay. Let's go forward then. What have you learned today? What can you say that you've learned in terms of supporting communities through not only token stake in their communities, but also providing liquidity to them as users in those tokens?
I mean, I think it provides value. There's a significant amount of academic research that indicates that the quality of liquidity in a market actually makes those markets more efficient. And from like a high level theoretical perspective, if market makers are making profits because they're adding value. But not everyone in this room is going to agree with that particular philosophical perspective.
Well, I thank you for saying it, though, because that's the point of Deep Web3 Secrets. Even if you don't agree with what we're saying is at least what some people think. And if you don't understand in these open source is another one, but since crypto comes from open source, we need to understand what we're doing here. We are establishing protocols to live and work with other people. And how can we do that unless we understand how other people think? And so I believe in this theory almost exactly, probably you said it better than I ever have. If the market maker is profitable, it added value to the market. You said there's academic research. I'd love to put it in the chat, as it were. But what I'd rather do is have you, maybe with the tip jar, how can we participate, dear listener, in this thing you're talking about? We would want some stake, and that stake we think we understand is going to benefit us and maybe even someone else, because we have to give to get in this program. So how can I do it? And use the tip jar, and maybe, or talk, and then I'll use the tip jar, okay?
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to pivot back to the main program, because whatever is happening in SBI tokens, like, that's interesting to us, but it's basically immaterial to your typical Hive SBI user. The total amount of Hive SBI assets that are held in SBI tokens is like less than 2%. And so that's pretty immaterial to most Hive SBI users. You can pad your ROI a little bit if you're active in one of those communities and become active Hive SBI user at the same time. But it's not going to be like a significant, whatever's happening in SBI tokens is not going to be a significant impact for like your typical Hive SBI user, except that they should be using tags that will qualify for whatever communities they're active in. If you do want to get SBI tokens to like build up stake and make market in your token, like, you could reach out to me and I'll take a look at your token and see if the volume profile looks interesting. But the key thing that you're looking for would actually be like on the main program. You join Hive SBI and you size up in Hive SBI by sponsoring other members. And so that's just like sending a one Hive or like any multiple integer, like whole number of Hives to Steam Basic Income. We changed the branding, but we kept the old account names. And the transaction memo would just be the name of the account that you want to support. And so, yeah, in this example, this URL that EcoInstant is about to embed would go to TipJar, and it would create a sponsoring transaction that would sponsor deep Web3 secrets for 10 Hive SBI. And our bot will pick that up off of the blockchain, and it will create 10 Hive SBI for deep Web3 secrets, and it would create 10 Hive SBI for the account that we received that transaction from. At that point.
Yeah, sorry, hold on a second. I put it in and I did it. You see, I did it wrong without the HTTP, and so you could kind of see it. And I did it right, and Discord recognizes this embed. And if you click on this link, you will be prompted to send 10 Hive to, I think I got it right, Steam Basic Income. Does that look right, Joseph?
Yeah, it looks right. So you could take this, you can sponsor Deep Web3 Secrets for 10 Hive first, and then you could take this URL, drop the Deep Web3 Secrets off the end of it, put your own name on it, and embed it in all of your posts and say, hey, support me for Hive SBI. And then people can click it and sponsor you for 10 Hive SBI, or they can change it to whatever number they want.
Yes, this is a composable link, and so you would do exactly that. Any community project could use this link, just change the Deep Web3 Secrets at the end, include your community posting account or main account, as they sometimes say, project account, whatever it is, and user account, and this would prompt any user quickly and easily and clearly to sponsor you for 10 units, and they would themselves get 10 units. Some people, we do have a medium amount of orcas, maybe we could call them, do sponsor people in this way, and we're looking to expand, I guess you could say, the amount of people that understand what's going on. Because basically what you're doing is you are buying a $2 share for $1. Is that right, Joseph? I got it with what over-collateralization means?
Yeah, something like that. So effectively, like, you now have 10 Hive SBI, and that means that there's 10 Hive powered up that's supporting them and 10 that are supporting you. But actually, because it's over collateralized, it's more.
Good, perfect. That's the way to wrap that up. So that's really great, and I hope that anybody that wants to would do that to support us, or at least consider using these easy links to ask for support from your own community. Because what we see is that, as we discussed in this podcast already, not everybody makes the posts, but a lot of people maybe work together to have a single posting account about the things they're doing in their team. Not everybody on the team is maybe making posts to get the votes, but in this way, everybody can support a project account. JJ, new Hive user in this Discord, reached out to me. He's trying to put together a Nigeria community and get together with everybody in Nigeria. And so one of the things I'm going to recommend to them is that they look into Hive SBI. It's one of the things I recommend to a lot of projects, because I know that projects that are trying to do long-term visions are going to be more successful if, don't say fuck Jack is, no, this is not. This is Brother Jack, Friar Jack. I totally lost my train of thought. Joseph, bring me back.
Yeah, so multiple people posting on one account, working together to create content for it, and then they have a more consistent posting history, and it's easier for each of them individually to capture value from that. Like, one person writes the post, but they split the rewards across everyone in the team, for example. In the example of your Nigerian community, I would also recommend to them that they have a sign-off process. So one person creates a post, somebody else reviews that post and signs it off before the account posts. Because if you have a lot of members within a community that can all post without checking each other's work, it significantly increases the likelihood that one of them will do something nefarious, like use ChatGPT to create their post or plagiarize some content from somewhere else on the internet. And when the quote-unquote authorities come down on them, it's going to affect everyone. They're not going to care that it's a community account and only one person was guilty of the
I
bad
think
behavior.
that's a perfect way to frame it. And so we know that there's different community efforts to be authorities, and so we would prefer to avoid that altogether. Especially as we're building a brand. You know, it's kind of like the Bruce Lee thing, right? You need to learn the rules to break the rules, because there are no rules, or whatever it is, right? Is that kind of how you would frame it, Joseph, as new people coming in?
Yeah, I mean, Hive is decentralized, which technically means you can do whatever you want, but it also means you can do whatever you want. And so somebody with a bigger wallet than you is out there watching to make sure that you are behaving according to their standards of behavior, and will come down on you if you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of what is it? I guess visibility. We have a lot of, and we've come to associate Hive with the See Everything apps. I'm putting out private front ends, so anybody can be linking and showing content that's valuable to them, and it doesn't really matter if it's monetized or demonetized. Of course, anybody who content doesn't have value would not be motivated to do that, but it's an interesting case that people have opinions, right? And so if you include an up and a down vote, you get certain behaviors where larger stakeholders' opinions matter more culturally, right? Matter more than other people's. Do you see that has advanced over time? The theory has always been that the distribution will continue to widen. Do you feel like that's happening? I think the math shows it is. The question is, do we feel like it's happening?
I don't follow the distribution trend enough to know that. Culturally speaking, I think there's still very much a perception or sentiment that the whales are in charge and the little people don't matter. I don't know how entirely accurate that is or not. Whales have a structural advantage in that one or two whales working together are a significant amount of stake. And while little people matter and can come together and add up to substantially more stake, when the distribution is widened, it requires a significant level of organization capability. And generally speaking...
Yeah, can I just hold that point because I want you to keep going, but I generally think open source is like this. You know, I've just spent some time and energy with the Hive Engine witnesses, just getting our shit together. Onboarding is outpacing curation. That's good. And so, okay, we'll get to that if whether it's good or bad, what it means. But so I believe that open source in general, we come together in a crisis to build something new, and then we all go about our business again, right? So it's possible that big changes happen tomorrow, but we have to come together. I mean, does that lead into what you were about to say?
Yeah, and we absolutely have the capabilities to do that. But people tend to be focused on whatever's happening in their lives. It takes extreme events for people of different perspectives and backgrounds to come together and deal with the threats of consolidation of power. And so on a day-to-day basis, it is, as long as they don't do anything extreme, it's easier for the whales to just trot along and maintain a consolidation of power than it is for the non-whales to band together and redirect the outcomes.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to get too bogged down in the details. I will say what I last concluded, looking at the math, was the whales aren't crazy trying to maximize their ROI because distribution is happening. It's widening. So any dent to their percentages is just going to increase that faster. So that's neither here nor there. We have a comment from Guilty Parties. Onboarding is outpacing curation. Lots of new users aren't getting consistent engagement. And I, frankly, have to take some personal blame for this. And one of the ways that I mitigate this personal blame and guilt that I feel is by participating in programs like Hive SBI. So let me talk you through my experience as a sleepy orca, because I'm not a whale. I'm a 5X orca. But I was a minnow at one time. I remember becoming a minnow the first time, and that was kind of a big deal. So it is not the case that this isn't working, so to speak. It's working. It's working. I don't know if it's working fast enough. But okay, so I am busy with my stuff, which I believe will bring not only great value to my life and my community, but also to Hive. And it's a bear market. I've made some posts at the end of the last bull. We raised $35,000. We bought a real property. And now it's 3 years of a bear market. And so we're in a bear market. I got my head down. I'm grinding, right? I am grinding. I'm not curating. I put together a program where my members can curate and stuff, and I can hope that I get better curators as members than others. But so I try to spread my vote around. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not looking for new posts. I'm not. What did Guilty Party say again? A lot of new users aren't getting consistent engagement. So what does engagement mean? We can first think about votes. And I know that as a 5X orc, I am starting to have some responsibility in this. And so I can try to spread it as much as I can and hope that my users are doing the same. But we have a habit of Hive, because maybe of the tools we have as well, of using Hive Vote and following trails. And I think Curangel does really good, and there's a few other ones. OCD's maybe one of them, if they still do what I think they used to do. But of course, we need to do better, right? Onboarding is outpacing curation. I do believe that's true in Hive Colombia and maybe LATAM in general, Latin America. But if you look at my guy's blog, I'm going to go to it right now. Joseph, confirm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm trying to scan.
Perfect. I got my
What you see more.
I got my mic open, even though I'm not a paid. Oh, that's not it. No, delete.
Yeah, I can still hear you. You said delete.
Oh, whoops. Okay, this is my kid. I onboarded him, and I should just add, everybody's been telling me, value plan, they're terrible. But I onboarded this kid with value plan money. Guilty Parties is here listening to me. He sent me the whatever it was, $283, where I first met this kid, paid for my hotel and my bus, and probably the sandwiches. I don't remember exactly, but it was a couple of bucks, and I found this $1 million kid. And you see the kid go all the way back. You know, he's got 35 posts in the last year and a half, but now he's a superstar. Great addition. Yeah, where's my presenter, Guilty? I brought this kid, man. Okay, so we're working it out, guys. Don't worry, we're working it out. We're organizing ourselves because what we've been is asleep for a long time. It's not that we don't all want the best things. We've just been sleeping. And I want to know, Joseph, so how can we recognize new users to nominate for Hive SBI? How can we know that this isn't a waste and that we are, I mean, what should we look for to think that this could be a motivating factor to get them to stick a little bit better?
I mean, with regards to what Guilty Parties is saying about engagement, there's basically multiple levels. One level would be the votes that you get, and another level would be the comments that you receive and responses. And so, like, you could sponsor somebody for Hive SBI, and it'll help them a little bit with the votes they get. It'll stack with the nominations that other people provide, and their frequency of receiving votes will increase. But it's not gonna, like, we don't comment. We don't spam the blockchain with comments. And so they're not necessarily, if they don't understand the program, going to even know, like, oh, I got this for impressing somebody or whatever. And so if you do sponsor somebody, just like drop them a note and be like, hey, I'm commenting on your post, like, I thought whatever, and I sponsored you for some ongoing votes. So there's effectively stake dedicated to your support.
So I have done this secretly and maybe not so secretly for a number of years. I have interpreted the mission to convert my pending balance into something of value to me, and one of those values has been to expand the program. I nominated a lot of projects and maybe along the way extracted value in different forms, whether it was social or otherwise, but generally just trying to grow the, again, orcas. If I'm a whale in SBI, I've been trying to grow the orcas. And for example, even I've had a falling out with the bros, but bro has a nice orca-sized position and keeps getting those votes. You know, so even like if it was up to me, I would take them back, but I can't control that. And honestly, I like the idea that people I don't agree with do post on Hive, and hopefully they are successful. It doesn't matter that they agree with me or not. So, I mean, have I, by secretly doing this, have I been maybe not getting the full effect of my spreading marketing efforts?
I mean, if it's secret, if they understand where it comes from, like where Hive SBI votes come from being sponsored by somebody, then they'll know, like, oh, I'm getting these votes because somebody wanted to provide me with some support, even if they don't know who it was. And so,
like it is still providing something. But if it's like a brand new account, they've never heard of Hive SBI, they don't know what it is. I mean, we've got someone in the chat trying to describe a concept that actually honestly sounds a lot like what we're doing, and saying that there's nothing on Hive that does that. And so I would have to like get into his documents and see exactly what makes what he's saying different than what I'm talking about. But realistically, a new user is not going to know what Hive SBI is, what it means, where these SBI votes that sometimes show up on their post came from. And so supporting somebody without dropping them a note, interacting with their content is not going to have the same effect.
Are you saying that what Kasim is typing is Hive SBI? Is that what we're understanding?
I mean, I don't know if it is or not because I haven't read the full documentation, but what he's talking about is like a decentralized curation, and that's effectively what we're doing, except that the actual control of the stake is centralized. But the decision, the curation choice, who is going to be supported, how much they're going to be supported by, that is entirely decentralized.
And Kasim is no stranger to the show. Should we bring him on to hash this out in real time, or should we tell him that we'll think about it for a week before we hear it live? Because I have not clicked these links at all either, or even read all the things that he said.
It's your show. I don't have a problem with him coming on.
Kasim, get on here, man. Get on here. Explain it. Okay, I'm holding it. Yes, he's here. Okay, Kasim. This is Kasim. I like to think of him as the Batman of Pakistan. Here we go, Kasim. Tell me if we're missing something, we should do it.
Okay, so I'm talking about decentralized curation concept, but it is not like I use the word vote leasing to describe decentralized curations, and I will go further into what I mean by decentralized curation. First of all, vote leasing is just considered a bad word. The concept is very beautiful and it has many benefits. So, because of Hive engine leasing and vote selling, this vote leasing word just got a different meaning with time and people associate it with different things. Now, coming back to what I mean by decentralized curations. Okay, so there is a website, I shared the link. It is not fully functional yet, but the thing it does is there are different curators from different categories. Uh, if any of you have a little bit knowledge of Medium, what they does is they pick a professional of each subject, and then that professional submits some blogs. Similarly, let's say Living UK Taiwan is professional in traveling blogs. Let's just consider that. Or I am from Pakistan, or Bhadji, or any other person is from India. It's not related to just countries. There is some expert of the subject of sports. And Guajenberg or Rantry, he's the guy from Canada and he's formerly from Brazil. He's a scientist. So let's say that he's representing science. So what these decentralized curations does is they, first of all, the curator should have to be professionally, or like there should be a reason we are assigning one niche to them. After we assign a niche to them, there is a similar to witness voting. That particular person is submitting post.
Okay, Kasim,
Okay,
Kasim, hold on a second. Whoa. Okay, I need to ask a few grounding questions. I love what I heard so far about curation, and this takes us back into content curation, which is definitely different than user curation, and so that's okay. And so, first of all, please tell me, just quickly here, are you describing what you are doing now or what you're gonna do?
50-50. Because
Okay.
in some places I am doing it, but the link, it is not done professionally with better tools and more transparency. Like we are doing it, but what we are trying to achieve is we are making the process more transparent, more
Yes.
professional, and with advanced tools.
So, what you're thinking of for this tool is to then seek delegation from larger stakeholders so that they can use their curation in a more open way. And a program like SBI might be able to follow on that sort of support using a
They don't have to
detection
delegate to
service.
use the
Well,
system.
hold on a
They don't
second,
have
because it's two different
control.
processes. Somebody who's looking for users to support might follow on content you've selected because you've selected content that user might be, you know, it might be selectable for further onboarding or inboarding. Because remember, maybe we can all talk about this because the Leo Finance proposal is still hot and in everybody's mind. It's not just account creation. We created a lot of accounts in Bogota at Crypto Latin Fest. We got John Tomaszewski. So between that point, there's other accounts too that are in different levels of inboarding. You know, the Zircon wallet guys still, gosh, man, it's so hard. They still reach out to me because they want EcoBank in the Zircon wallet. But guys, if you can't make a blog, like, are you worth my time? Like, if you can't use it, okay. So I don't know. All of these things about inboarding, I mean, we have to distinguish things, right? Because sometimes people feel like we're trying to compete, but we're not competing. We're trying to, it looks like what you're trying to do is spread out the votes, right? Is that right, Kasim?
But I would like to add, this system does not depend on if someone delegate to us, if someone holds a token. It's not related to what they are giving us. I'm just clearing that.
Well, good. Okay, so you're not asking for anything, and that's the right way to ask for things. So let me just ask you this: what stake, whose stake is behind this? Then, I mean, why are we even talking about it? Why would you code it if there wasn't a significant stake behind it?
It's a project by Lazy Panda and Pandex, and I'm the guy whose ideas are being implemented. So
Because
we have a
the
good,
Batman of Pakistan has really good ideas, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
kind of.
Okay, sorry, I don't want to inflate your head too much. Okay, good. So now that I understand, you're going to get curators in different topics, and you're going to try to spread out a vote. And I would just say, one of the things you guys should focus on is newer accounts. If you could filter towards maybe least author rewards received or something like that as one of your filtering mechanisms. Do you think that would be valid? Is that a way is that a metric that you think would be measurable and usable in practice?
Here we are trying to bring topic experts on board, and they are submitting different posts. For example, let's say that Bhakti is from India and he is like, let's say he's a very religious person, he's into Hinduism, he knows all the knowledge about it. Let's say that he's controlling a topic of the religion. If we don't watch, if we don't observe, if the process is not transparent, what eventually happens is we see in all the curation projects, most of the curators end up supporting their friends most of the times. It happened again and again that we have curators and they have direct access to pressing those curation buttons, and they abuse their power as much as they can. And most of the times they get unnoticed. We have seen this in Splinterland's curation, even in Hive Pakistan, in Hive Learners, no matter what the project is, somewhere slightly curator is trying to give someone favors. So by implementing this system, first of all, a curator is submitting the content they want to curate in a screening system that is transparent, that is seen by all Hive. It gets submitted into the screening system, and then whole Hive can use their Hive power, go to that page similar to witness votes, and then similar to how people vote witnesses live, those posts are getting positions, their topics are assigned, who submitted them, kind of like that. And those posts who get into top 10 per day, those posts will get very high support from the system.
This is
Last
interesting.
year,
Now, I would love to. So, your post submission is decentralized, and you
yeah,
have
kind of.
centralized experts, and you're going to do an interface. So, here's my question: what is the call to action? And Joseph, hold on a second. Joseph is right, but also just remember that this is a piece of stake, right? So this is a way to control a piece of the stake. But my question for you is, what is the call to action for us now? You say it's half built, and Lazy Panda is going to vote this way based on what we submit. So what's our call to action today, Kasim?
All I'm saying is GP mentioned a problem that most of the people we onboard, they are not getting much support. The problem is not that there is not enough stake. The problem is stake is not going to right people because of sometimes auto curation, sometimes curator abuse. So this system eliminates dependency on the curators. They daily make curators go through a screening process before a vote is approved. So if a vote is approved, they get a commission, similar to how curation projects cuts a fees. So of course they want their post to be selected from the screening process, which is whole hive is watching what they submitted. If their posts do not end up in top 10, they are not getting any benefit for it. So
So
they
first
want
of
high.
all, I love this, and this is kind of it's learning a lot of lessons. Considering that again, the stake it's a piece of stake. I don't think decentralized is the right word at all, but it's some sort of distribution based on metrics. Um, It needs backing, right? And so Lazy Panda, the backer he mentioned, I think is a big fat wallet. But I thought he had all his money in HBDs, so that's an interesting development. Okay, so still, what I'm very interested, Kasim, in is the development you're talking about. I think learns the right lessons, and it works for the curation that we have now, which is linear to 24 hours. But are you not still? And I love that it's transparent, which I don't think like TipView still exists, but I don't know that. I mean, that's I guess the most decentralized one there is. The CureAngel one is private. So my question for you is, doing all this transparent UI work, because there's a big stake, we imagine, that is going to be moving from HBD into Hive Power. What political message are you going to be trying to send with this application? Are you thinking that other people would follow your example, something like that?
Uh, First of all, GP mentioned that there isn't enough stake to curate people we are onboarding, meaning that there is less curation, but more people are coming to Hive. So people are earning less and they're getting discouraged. What I'm saying is the Hive having stake is not the problem. The number of votes there are to give to people is not the problem. The problem is kind of curator abuse, power abuse. And why this power abuse happens is because whenever someone have large stake, they set it and forget it. And those people who often end up controlling that stake, they might not use it as intended or they try to misuse their power. This this system takes power from the hands of curators. This gives power to everyone, all Hive. They don't have to hold Panda token. They don't have to do anything. It gives power to everyone based
Well,
on their stake.
the
So
power.
we are taking away from curators
Okay.
power. We are reducing dependency on curators and creating a balance between curators and hivers.
The power that I understand, obviously, is one, a good model, but two, really, the power is information. The idea is information. And I think Guilty Parties was saying was that, kind of a broken information flow. But, anyone that's talking about Hive in general is going to say that it's the onboarder's responsibility to handhold his onboard. And to me, that's just complete inboarding or completing the onboard. You're the one that's going to go to. And so I saw, and I think it was in this Discord, a person needed the help with the recovery account. And who was the recovery account? Well, it was OCD, and you know what? Acid Yo was there to click the button. I don't think Acid Yo's programming it, but he clicked the button when he needed to click the button, because that's his job, in some senses of the word job. We need better tools for sure, but what seems to me you're providing is information. Is that right? Is that right, Kasim?
Kind of like solving a problem that we think is a problem. Maybe not everyone would agree. And what you were saying about Asiodos recovering keys, that part, and taking care of your people you onboarded, that part is done very beautifully by Hive Pakistan. Because we are partnered with Hive Learners, India United, Hive Filipinos, and many other communities, and we teach people how they can go to other communities and get their votes by being authentic, by doing the things the right way. So if someone is going to Horizon community or they are going to Ladies of Hive community, at least in the end, Hive Pakistan is teaching them how to do that. There is mentoring and there is support, even if the vote value is not higher.
Well, I like that. I like it. It's going to be higher if he converts that HBD into Hive power. But okay, so I love it, man. I love it. I love the breadcrumbs too. I'm trying to give Define the Dollar the chance to open his mic, but he's not responding to me. Okay, so anti-socialist comes in. Utopian. Back in the day, the impact of unused steam power on the rewards pool. If you want to help the noobs, tell our number one curator to stop. Oh, this seems political. Okay. To stop taking out 30K Hive a month every month from the first block. And the top 20 accounts that take it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it to those people, because here's the thing. If they sell, that's increasing the distribution to the buyers. So probably the top people should be selling, and if they're selling at low prices, probably that's a benefit to at least in terms of decentralized distribution. I don't know, man. I would have to think way harder and longer before I said anything about what the thing you just said was. Only have to stop voting. Oh, gosh, like I said, I stand by what I said. I'd have to think a lot about it. Okay, this guy still has not defined the dollar, has not opened his mic, so we can assume it's not going to open. The Hive has opened his mic. You want to chime in about what we talked about in the last 20 minutes here with Kasim?
Well, I understand what Kasim is saying. I have a very clear thing. But I do think he needs his own then do it in. Because he wants to highlight specific posts. These are high quality posts. He wants to be a news media outlet of sort. Wants to be. And he doesn't care where the news comes from, if it's from America, if it's from Ireland, Japan. If there's never any news on there about India, he doesn't give a shit. He wants his kind of own front end, and he wants to bring that quality stuff that people write from different areas around the world on different topics. He wants like a cooking channel. You know, when you log into the Guardian newspaper. Across the stuff, he wants Quasim's newspaper. And then he's got all tabs squared off, nice and neat, on the topics that he has specific people to target. So if he has somebody on target, like the kitchen fairy on the Hive blockchain, if anybody's not gone, look for you like a bit of cooking, go over have a look at the kitchen fairy on the Hive blockchain.
Hey,
She
the
does
Hive,
cooking.
let me chime in here. Why don't you get a link? Put that link right in the chat. Okay, so here's what I want to say. The Hive is brilliant mind, and he took me right to what I've been trying to talk about. Qasim gave me advice. I still haven't taken it to explore this SEO thing, but I will say that the Hive is the right idea here for you, Qasim. You need your own domain, and you should treat this like a newspaper. And I can help you think it through, or even in the building or whatever. But I told Cine Tribe that exact thing, because we need to be ranking our own domains with the domain authority of PeakD instead of the other way around, thinking that we're going to give PeakD good content and it's going to rank. It'll never rank because it's an everything app. But we can use it, and the power of eCNC and the power of HiveBlog and the power of all these domains to rank our own domains. And so we just all need to build newspapers and bulletins, like I was talking to with the Aloha Ed. And I got in kind of a long-distance discussion in the PeakD support channel, because I don't know what people know about how domains work. Yeah, Wavio. Wavio's solving the problem in a way, but Guilty, listen to me. This is my business-to-business product, because crosslinks are incredibly powerful. Every website should have a subdomain of their Hive blog where every blog points to their main domain. It's incredibly powerful, because then Wavio, PeakD, Hive blog, everybody's pointing to the main domain. It's a superpower. We're doing it backwards. We need to have our own businesses. And so that's what we're doing. We're ranking the Crazy GM. We haven't even started the Crazy GM. It's just Hive tools so far. But the power of 57 front ends pointing at us is incredible. So I've got a couple of clients now that never have used Hive before, so I'm going to do some testing with it. And by summer, man, we should have great results. I mean, every business in the world should use this, whether they know about Hive or not, Okay, so back around. Joseph, let's bring it back around. You have been, I think, a silent philanthropist through Hive for many years. Come back to that. What has changed in your life since you first launched this program? And how has running this program, besides all the details of what that means, how has it, kept up with you in your life in over that period?
Well, let me first correct you. I'm not the philanthropist. I built a tool that enables others to be the philanthropist. You're the philanthropist.
Well, I appreciate that. But beyond that, as the guy who enables philanthropy in general, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the project has been a huge part of my life. At the time that I kicked it off, I thought it would be just a few months to get things automated. My wife was pregnant with our firstborn. She's 6.5 now. She's in her snuggling with me. I took a call, kind of like this one, did a presentation on Hive SBI from the hospital while she was in labor, with permission. Got things automated while she was a baby. She came to some conferences with me when she was a baby. I started going after that so she could actually sleep through the night instead of trying to stay in a hotel room. So it's kind of been like Hive SBI is my firstborn and she's second. But I have definitely...
We lost you. Go back. Hive SPI is your firstborn child, which is a statement for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of tongue in cheek. But I have over the years shifted my attention to actually spending time with my flesh and blood children as much as I can instead of with Hive SPI. Which means that for the last couple of years, especially through the last crypto bear market that began in 2021, it's been more back burner, maintaining but not growing. Within the last year, we've got some new stuff out. We've done a little bit of more promotion work. I do have a roadmap I'm putting additional work into. We're going to get some things up on GitHub in terms of what work we need to have done. I'll go through the FAQ and documentation to make sure that everything is clear. There's already bounties, but we're going to make them more public in terms of people contributing either to the document or to the GitHub development.
Okay, well, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there because this is a big one for me as someone who's trying to bring back the spirit of Utopian without the terrible management, kind of in a more free-flowing way. Contributions for GitHub submissions. Are we talking issues, pull requests, comments? Do you have, for a wiki, a pull request can be, just an updated a series of words, So, what's the, describe the bounty a little bit right here. Just maybe we could talk about it.
So the documentation is on Gitbook already, which means you could submit pull requests for changes to the documentation. The code base is all open source. It is linked to or referenced in some of the documentation, but if people can't find it, we can get another post up that explains that everything is open source. The bounty is nebulous because I definitely believe in value for value. So I don't want to be like, oh, it's going to be 10 bonus units and then somebody submits something and it took an hour. Well, then 10 bonus units doesn't make any sense at all. Or it could be 10 bonus units and they submit something and it took 1 minute, which again, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I think that when people submit their pull requests, they should say like, this is my process or this is how long it took me. And if I have serious doubts about that, I can jump on a quick call with them. But they can submit their own request for what they think the bonus units will be. If it's an area where I don't have technical proficiency, so I don't know how long it actually would have taken them, I do have guys that have technical proficiency that I can reach out to. They just don't have the time to do things themselves. And so they can look at it and be like, yeah, that's a reasonable estimate for how long he says that took. So if he says 300 bonus units, then 300 is fair. And, in some cases, I've definitely worked with developers that undervalue their time. And they come back and they're like, oh, well, I want 50 bonus units for this. And I'm like, 50, are you kidding? I know how long that took you, and I'll do it for like 200.
Okay, so hold on a second, because this is a big deal. A lot of developers are not good at charging, and they don't know what they're worth, so they undercharge, then they get burnt out, then they disappear because it turns out the whole time you were paying them $10 an hour, and that just isn't right. And they never said anything, and you don't know what you did wrong. I learned this lesson a lot of years ago, even before blockchain. But talk us through that psychology. As someone who's not a developer but's learned to talk to them, like me, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that sort of psychology.
Okay, so there's our entire global economic ecosystem is oriented around the concept of time for money. And we have a framework where we look at time for money, but it's not actually time for money, it's value for money or expertise for money. And that's why the differentials in what money people can get for their time are such an extreme spread. So there's a classic story about a boat that wouldn't function, and they sent it back to the boatyard, and it was dry docked, and somebody went around it with a hammer and tinked on a bunch of different places and found where the problem was. And when they fixed the problem, it took them 10 minutes. And then they billed the owner $10,000. And the owner came back and they were like, our guy was there. It only took you an hour. And then 10 minutes to do the actual work. And the guy was like, yeah, that's true. So let me itemize that for you. That's $10 for the actual work, $100 for the hour, and $9,900 for knowing what to do.
No, hold on a second. I'm sorry. It's knowing where to hit with the hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing where to hit with the hammer and knowing what to fix when he hears the right sound from the hammer that indicates this is where the problem is. Yeah, so you're familiar with the story.
It's a classic. My dad told me that story. He said it's $10,000. Well, he told it a little bit cruder because my dad was a builder.
Version, but the original story dates back to before rocket ships. But yeah, so you get the idea. So the thing about a developer is, like, especially the developers that we mostly work with on Hive, these are often people that are at the beginning of their career. They're just transitioning into recognizing that their expertise has value in its own right. And they tend to price their time based on, like, oh, this only took me this long, and so that makes it $20 or $10 or whatever. But actually, the value is in their expertise. And if I sit down and do something myself, I can figure it out. I can develop. I hate it, and it's not a good use of my time, right? So it might take me 100 hours to do something, and a good developer might come in and do it in 10 minutes.
So what's it worth? What's the value? So
right,
I just want to say
so
that.
The value should be somewhere in the middle.
Well, I like that, and I like when they share their value with me because that's how we do really big things. But I said to somebody recently, because he said to me, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to learn Python. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I did that once. I went to Free Code Camp, man. I got my certificate. That's how I learned to read GitHub repos. But at the end of the day, I realized the value I add is in reading the repos because nobody reads them. Nobody ever looks. And the people that look are the wizards. And so there I am reading the repos with the wizards. And if I have a 20th level wizard friend, why am I trying to learn first level spells? Why don't I just learn to talk to the wizard? Right? Because I have value. It's different value, right? I communicate with the client. I figure out what the hell the client is talking about. What is it that they're trying to do? And filter by what's easy and what's hard a lot of times. So, I mean, I think of you much like that. You could code, and sometimes you do, but at the end of the day, certain updates, that you need to pay somebody to have that time. But technically, the value is, if you, in your example, 100 hours, the value creation, the consumer, you hope there's some consumer surplus here, but the value creation is whatever you're billing per hour times 100, right? So if you're billing $50 an hour, 100 hours is $5,000.
Right. Yeah. That's why I don't change my own oil. And it's the same thing with code. Okay. So this guy in the chat said an AI will do it in 30 seconds. An AI is a level 15 wizard with a level 1 wizard's contextual expertise. And it will absolutely blow up your whole village with fireballs if it's not overseen by a level 20 wizard. So, yeah.
Fantastic analogy. And I just want to tie it back into what Guilty's saying in the chat. If you do go to their repo, you'll see which development team has submitted issues for a pipeline of problems. And it's like I was talking about before, open source activates in a crisis. Luckily, I woke up 8 days before this particular crisis because we activated together people who were just sleepily running a node for $12 a month profit. And that's a problem. We need to activate, we need to fix some things, and fixing is now actually happening. We got a couple of new guys in, and fixing is happening. There's some politics happening with the worker bee governance, but I feel good. I feel apt for social politics, because at the end of the day, when you add a friend on Discord, they're all humans. They all want this to work. There's nobody on that list that doesn't want this high side chain to work. At least two, as long as, and probably continuing beyond any sort of VSC integration that Hive might have. Hive should want to have dozens of layer 2s and continue to develop them, because every layer 2 is going to have pros and cons on a technical level, and going to be good for some things and not great for others. And so we should explore and exploit that what layer 2s give us. And in some sense, I consider PodPing the value for value. They took value for value from the podcasting 2.0 model from Adam Curry from the podcast No Agenda. And so that model built through the spirit of Brian of London, built on Hive a ping. And so that's a layer 2. I can't make a token on it. I can't have but I can make a podcast. So maybe that is a token. Anyways, there's other protocols, right? We have the Magnet Bank, and we have other protocols already in Hive. And so we should support that, and they need to wake up. They're waking up. And just so everybody on the call knows, it was healthy. It was healthy, thankfully. And I think some of that is because maybe I primed the pump a little bit a few days early, but I don't want to take all the credit. What is this person? Owl human bull hybrid. Well, this is exactly what AI is for. Just so you know. Goofy images. I don't know if it does any of the other stuff that we think is important that it do, but it makes goofy images, memes, and funny text. So
That one has 2 sets of ears.
Go, Joseph, go. Bring us back.
I said that one has 2 sets of ears.
Oh, look at that. Yep. Well, that's statistically the most likely way it would happen, right?
Actually, my wife tells me those are just like feather tufts. The ears are on the side of their head.
Oh,
So
well, then
aren't
it's biologically
ears. So maybe it is
accurate.
only 1 set of ears.
Fantastic. Those are how the feathers work. So I see people come in and they come out, but I like it. They're activating. They're waking up. Okay, so we got John Tomaszewski. We got to talk about this. NFC technology. Bring it in. Boom. This is connected. I mean, this is connected through the PodPing. This is connected through the V4V technology that we were just talking about in terms of podcasting. There are other protocols, promising protocols, and they're getting some attention. Jay Tomaszewski is a member of Hive Columbia, Guilty. Hive Columbia. You know who's the leader of Hive Columbia? Eco Instant. Okay, so just remember that, Guilty. He's under Starker's wing, but he's my kid.
Wait, who's this Eco Instant fellow you're talking about?
Yeah. I'm just letting everybody know. John knows. I know. Everybody knows. Hive Columbia, this win is the juice that Value Plan needs, because a lot of people are feeling like Value Plan. They're reaching out to me. I voted on Value Plan. I'm not even a whale. I'm an orca. And they're telling me, oh my gosh, how could you vote on that Value Plan? And it's hurtful to me, Guilty. So use this kid. I am giving this to you. John Tomaszewski, member of Hive Columbia. This is what we try to do with Value Plan. It costs $300. It's $1 million kid. That's how you have to spin it, man. You know, that's the right way to market this thing. Okay. China making 6. I did this, man. I got, let me show you guys. Eco the Exploiter. This is my phone account. I got a Chinese phone, so I made new accounts. Look at this image, guys. It's like they added a 10-finger check, because this dude literally has 6 fingers on one and 4 on the other. They're like, yep, 4 plus 6, that's 10 fingers. I love AI, man, but you got to know what it's good for. It's a tool, right? Joseph, how have you implemented AI into your workflow?
I don't use it.
At all, ever? Not even to make silly images for Pathfinder?
No, I don't use it.
All right, okay.
So if you do a Google search or anything like that, it will give you results that are from AI first. I would glance at those sometimes. Now and again, I will try to use AI to grab some context or think of something that might be harder to think of, like 4-syllable names that start with T or whatever. But the kinds of questions that I actually need to ask AI are usually questions that I have enough contextual knowledge to tell at a glance whether it got it right or not, and it is almost always correct when I use it. So I mostly don't use it because I don't trust it at all.
Fantastic. Okay, I mostly use it to organize my own thoughts. I love my recent love is to put in a couple of PDFs of like a local law and a national law, and then my own prompt engineering to get it to tell me what are the actual requirements, because these PDFs are hundreds of pages, you know. And so what you're saying is true. I should be, of course, very careful that it didn't miss something or that it didn't invent the thing. But because they're laws, I can cross-reference it, and I've found that it hasn't lied to me yet. But what you're saying is an interesting point. It may not be. It may depend on how you contextualize the questions. I think it could be pretty good at some things, but not others, right?
Right, yeah, if you contextualize it narrowly like that, you give it a specific document, this 200-page document from the state government, this 200-page document from the national government, and ask it to contextualize and give you a regulatory framework that incorporates all of it. It can narrow the scope to just that information, and it does a decently good job. And yeah, that will save you a significant amount of time, especially if you tell it to cite its sources or reference. And because then you can you can spot check and look up some of those sources. When I've done that and spot check sources, it looks up sources, but I'm not usually giving it like, according to this document, contextualize this legal framework or whatever.
Well, I think
so. Yes, that is a way of like carefully managing the prompt engineering to get more value and reduce likelihood of hallucinating.
Yeah. I would say juice for the squeeze to get the juice, because what I know is true is that the model is trained on data, and most of the data is out of date on the public ones. So I always give it the data I want it to look at. Claude allows me to do it. And you can pay per use, or you can get a couple free per day, or whatever, you know, how those models work. But basically, anyone that's trying to get more juice out of this, and maybe has a bigger data set than they allow, might be able to run an open source model, right? An open llama, an open LLM. Have you heard about anything like that?
Yeah, the open models I think are better. Open LLM, DeepSeek is an open model, and with an open model, especially if it's doing more of the crunching on your own side, you don't run into the same limitations in terms of how many tokens you feed it and how big of a response will come back. It is known that the longer you continue to interact, like the more tokens in a single session, the more self-aware GPT becomes. And so ChatGPT and all the other centralized systems will have like a particular token limit. And so there is actually a hard limit to how much data you can feed it for it to contextualize from, and how much information you can get back before it loses the thread and doesn't know what it's talking about anymore.
Wow. And so that makes me think that probably when they cut me off, it's a good thing, because if I kept going, it would start to go crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, when they cut you off, it's usually because it's approaching the self-awareness limit.
Super interesting because I got a guy, I want to interview him. They launched a protocol on Binance Smart Chain where AI bots can be programmed, they say, to respond, trade with certain market data feeds. And I have created some sociological indicators, and I wouldn't mind selling an AI bot that was programmed to those indicators. I don't know if I'd put any money in them, but I mean, maybe I'd watch them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this Def AI sector is actually a really interesting area. I monitor it loosely, but I'm not currently actively invested in any projects in that area.
Well, then you're the best guy to have talk about it before I might interview a guy who's deeply invested in the area.
I mean, that guy would definitely know a lot more than I do.
Because he's got stake in the right skin in the game, man. Skin in the game. Strikes again. Well, okay, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about, Joseph? Because I really enjoyed having you on. I feel like we almost went full circle. Did you want to maybe deep dive into any of the math that you think is misunderstood, or anything maybe we could touch on that because I think we did a good flyover. So now's the time to go back and drill deeper on anything.
I think if we drill deep, everyone's gonna drown.
So I mean, how do you deal with complexity that works, but maybe works so well that if you did try to explain it, people would start wondering if it was a scam.
Okay, so with regards to complexity, it's important to contextualize and recognize whether the complexity that you're seeing is complexity of output or complexity of inputs. So the Hive SBI model, for example, is actually really, really simple. There's a few factors, there's one or two levers that I can pull manually, and everything else just runs. It is not that complicated. However, it lives on an intersection of an interplay of some very complicated game theory and like coin metrics and like what's happening with the ratios of staked and unstaked Hive on the blockchain and the curation ratios, the activity ratios within Hive SBI, what's happening with the vote power. A few simple components results in outcomes that look extremely complex. And so, people look at it at two levels. One is sponsor people, they get votes. Simple. Okay, that's at a high level entirely accurate. And then there's the people that want to deep dive and dig into how everything works. And when I go through all of it, they're like, oh, this is actually really, really complicated. Well, no, it's actually not that complicated. It's not any more complicated than a teeter-totter. It's just that instead of it being a single teeter-totter, it's an asterisk, and all of the teeter-totters are moving in different ways at the same time.
Wow. Okay. So I can imagine an asterisk with multiple teeter-totters, and if I went to your documents, I could read more about that. What's the link? Put that right in the chat for us.
Well, the asterisk one I just thought of, and I have not done any documents that use the asterisk as an example. The actual example that I used in my documents is like a tank full of water, and water flows into the tank, and water comes out of the tank.
Yes,
and
we
the
got
water
really...
going into the tank goes in at a different speed than the water coming out of the tank. So water dribbles into the tank at exactly the same speed for everyone, the same speed per unit. So if you have 10 units, the water in the tank that is marked as being yours is a greater quantity than, or grows at a greater speed than somebody that has 1 unit. But then when you open the tap and let water out, that tap measures and will let out only a certain portion of the water that is attributed to you. And if you drink most of your water in a couple of days, you don't have that much water left. And when you go to drink again, there's not very much water. If you let your water build up for a couple of weeks and then you take a drink every day for each drink is going to be a lot bigger until your surplus of water is drawn down again.
Fantastic. Well, we can kind of wrap that whole program up in that water tank analogy. And I love stock to flow diagrams. It was one of the things when I studied economics at the University of Wisconsin at Whitewater. It was one of the realizations, because I'm a farm boy, and so stock to flow is a concept that I understand. I had never applied it to wealth before. And when I realized that many things in nature as well are stock to flow diagrams, I became now suddenly a permaculturist. So this is a powerful concept, stock to flow, and it's integrated into your program, right? And so if we understand stock to flow, you're saying this is quite simple, really.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom, mic drop. Hey, by the way, just reaching out, Deep Web3 Secrets. This is my podcast I am recording. Would anybody like to pick up the mic? We got some people in the house, guilty parties. We got this guy without a mic, Emre Baylor. Yes, D-Pole. I don't even know what you're working on right now. You want to talk, man? I'd love to talk to you. And we got anti-socialist. You want to say anything, anti-socialist? I know we were talking about political things before. Okay, Kasim, any closing thoughts, man? I think we'll wrap today. We got about 3 hours in the game. Kasim is also sleepy time. No. Okay, guys, this is the Hammer. I had a good one. I'm going to be continuing to do the Deep Web3 Secrets in this channel whenever I feel like it. And I'll be bringing my own guests, but other people will be invited and encouraged to speak and or make AI images of animal chimera hybrids. This is Eco Instant signing out. Thank you so much, Joseph Savage, and I'll probably have you back on again later to talk about less specific things. Is that okay with you? Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Good. This is Joseph Savage again, Hive SPI. Check it out. This is the guy I go to check my math. And so this has been Deep Web 3 Secrets. Everybody signing out.